Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another BRAP. It is October the 4th, 2023. And if you didn't get a chance to, you need to check out yesterday's special BRAP. I'm going to drop a link to yesterday's show. We had Colin Moriarty on from Last Stand Media, also host of, now I'm drawing a blank, Sacred Symbols. So it was really a great show. I mean, seriously, great conversation. We talked about the gaming industry. We talked about consumer buying habits. We talked about Microsoft's appetite for not destruction, well, maybe for destruction, but Microsoft's appetite for acquisitions as they look to grow Game Pass subscribers to about, I think the target's over 100 million in about by 2030, or else it could be RIP for Xbox, according to Phil Spencer under testimony. But anyway, definitely check out that show. I did drop a link in the live chat. And thank you, everyone, in the live chat for joining us this evening. Please do me a favor. Retweet this link that I'm going to drop here in the live chat. Let everyone know that we're live. We have a great panel tonight. We have two returning guests. Before we get to our guest this evening, I want to introduce our fellow panel member here, B Money. B, how are you this evening, sir?
Yo, what's going on, fellas?
Hey man, great to have you back. B, is NBA 2K that's out now, right? 2K
yes,
20
it
is it 24 now?
2K 24 is out. Yes.
All right, we're gonna have to talk about
Good,
that here.
Good, bad, or the same, B. Good, bad, or the same.
To be totally honest, I haven't played it yet. You know, I've been super busy with just real world stuff. You know, my kids are playing football. You know, high school football. They're doing amazing this year. Putting up a lot of big stats. We're trying to get my son, you know, his first couple offers in line. So, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things I got going on in the real world. I haven't actually played too many games, to be totally honest. But I'm looking forward to the onslaught of games that are coming out this month and you know, throughout the rest of the year and finally actually sitting down and jumping on 2K and seeing what it's about.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to your feedback there, B, as well, and that's awesome. Congratulations to you and your son. That's great to hear that he's doing well in football. So, that's
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting. Even though my Commanders are going to take it to your Bears tomorrow, but this
that's quite all right, man. We got a horrible front office, a horrible coach, a horrible offensive coordinator. It's just been a bad year, man. I don't understand what's going on. Like we had a pretty decent year last year. We go get a #1 receiver, and I don't know what happened, man. Like we're just throwing all these dumbass screenplays. We're not letting Justin Fields run the ball. We're not pushing the ball down the field. Like we became too predictable, and that's why we're not winning the game. So hopefully, you know, end of the season we fire all the coaches and, you know, start a new regime and hopefully get Justin Fields right. Otherwise, you know, we'll just get the quarterback from USC and move off Justin Fields and see what happens.
By the way, that's a fellow DC native, Caleb. Is it Williamson? I forget his last name for you. Yeah, he's actually from the DMV.
Williams.
Yeah. So he's a phenomenal. He's definitely gonna. He more than likely will be the first pick in the draft.
I would like
year.
to say that the New York Giants will be giving the Bears a run for that first pick.
Well, you have Danny Dimes, so but you have your QB, Danny Dimes.
No, we're okay. Hey, you know, a lot of people were asking not to talk sports on the show, but to be honest with you, you know, everyone's like, "Oh my God, 160 million for." No one read the fine print. If the Giants let him go this year or next year, which they'll probably keep him for next year anyways, regardless of where they are in the draft, they only own like somewhere around, I believe it's 42 or 43 million. Which don't get me wrong, I know in our
it's not guaranteed.
But 42 million is a hell of a lot better to pay out on a bust than 160. So the Giants have in writing, if he couldn't make it yet past year 2, he wasn't going to get nowhere near that money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And on that note, this gentleman doesn't need an introduction. It's Mooch. Mooch, welcome back to BRAP.
Yeah, buddy, it's great to be here tonight.
Yeah.
You know, it's B Money kind of said it great. You know, there's an onslaught of games coming out October.
Yes.
November, you know, it may not be the quantity, but there's still a couple of fun ones coming out in November as well. So this is a great holiday season we're going into. I'm excited to talk about those games and of course, the weekly gaming news, BRAP, which is just one of the things we love so much about it. But yeah, great to be here tonight. I love the panel you've assembled.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is it's been a great week for BRAP. We had Colin Moriarty on yesterday, and now we have you, Mooch, and we have Worrywart with us this evening as well. Worry, how are you?
Yes, I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing? I think that what the Bears should do is just have every season ticket holder pay $15 a month for a subscription service to the team. That way they can use that money to sort of get really mediocre players and do really poorly.
Oh, my God.
Just an idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, yeah. Mooch, Mooch, I hear you okay, but if everyone could give us a quick sound check, let us know if they can hear Mooch.
I hear you. You sound great. Mooch, you sound okay. B-Money sounds great.
I only got an okay.
You're a little low, though, but that's all right.
You are a little low, Mooch.
Like they say you're a little low. Well, I've got this mixer cranked up to like max. I don't know what I could possibly do. Maybe you think it's something on the Discord end, BRAP? Do you have me?
I turned you up on Discord, but Natonian saying everyone is good. I guess Natonian.
There you go.
Natonian, if my voice is low, I need to know. So
my voice is low. I need to know.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to make a shirt of that. Yeah, so just let me know, guys. I appreciate it. I'm trying to fix my own audio issues on BRAP's show while we're working.
Yeah, no, but people seem to the chat saying that you sound okay. So
that's good.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. A lot of gaming news. We're going to discuss Spider-Man 2. Is it too short? Apparently, some people think so. It's so ridiculous, by the way.
Idiots.
Yeah, I will talk about that. Forza Motorsport reviews are out. Also, Assassin's Creed. The new Assassin's Creed. Mirage. Thank you. Those reviews are out as well. I mean, look, this October stack. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. And we have some gaming executives that were recently arrested. We'll get into that here in a little bit as well. But and then we'll have. I think I'm not sure if Slow-Mo or Forte will be joining us this evening. I do believe. Hamp will be joining us here shortly as well, but hopefully Slow-Mo and Gaming Forte can make it. But all right, gentlemen, I do want to get some news items here. We're going to talk about what's going on with The Last of Us. We'll talk about that here just a little bit as well, and their multiplayer game factions. So, but we do have, I did mention executives being arrested. Yes, this is actually a true news story. 5 former Ubisoft executives. And I don't know for sure if the panel remembers. Ubisoft was actually under investigation for sexual harassment. This actually happened back in 2020, actually the summer of 2020. There were allegations of widespread abuse, harassment, and discrimination within Ubisoft, including claims against 2 executives at the time. But 5 former executives from Ubisoft have been arrested by French police following a year-long investigation into sexual harassment within the company. The French newspaper, the Liberation.
That was your French accent.
That was my French accent. Yes, I was Liberation. I don't. How do you do a French accent? I don't know how to do a French accent.
Yeah, if you're not French, you don't.
Yes. Well said, Worry. Could you do a French accent, Worry?
No, I can't. I'm Italian. Sorry.
Okay. How would you say it in Italian then?
How would I say what in Italian?
Liberation.
How would I say liberation in Italian?
Yeah.
Pretty much liberation.
All right. Fair enough.
I mean that's how I would say it. Or liberation.
Yeah, liberation. Maybe it's liberation.
Liberazione.
Yeah. But this is according to the French newspaper that reported that these individuals were arrested yesterday with 2 others placed, or 3 were arrested yesterday with another 2 placed in custody. So this is a result of the allegations, investigations that happened at Ubisoft, and this is. Or I should have mentioned this earlier. This is per GameIndustry.biz, which I encourage everyone. If you are not following GameIndustry.biz, please, and Mooch, maybe this might be a good media outlet for you to follow because we know how bad games media can be.
Don't get me started.
And we'll talk about that too today. But this is according to GameIndustry.biz. Now, GameIndustry.biz did reach out to Ubisoft. Spokesperson told them Ubisoft has no knowledge of what has been shared and therefore cannot comment. So that is the latest update in the sexual harassment allegations at Ubisoft for 2020, and what's happened with these 5 executives. So anyhow, all right. I do want to move on to The Last of Us, where there was reports from Kotaku that that this game, there was a report earlier this week that we talked about this yesterday with Colin, but there was a report this week, that there had been some layoffs at Naughty Dog, and they were, come to find out, they were QA testers, contractors that were laid off. And here's the thing, Mooch, about game media that drives me crazy sometimes. They felt the need to report that these individuals weren't getting any kind of severance package. Now,
which they don't get.
Which, yes, if you've ever been a contractor, you've been laid off, you don't get severance.
But it makes for a great headline.
It makes for
great traffic.
Yeah,
does make for a great headline.
It absolutely does. But people are running with this story. Yeah. Oh my God, look at Naughty Dog. They try to tell their employees to not say anything. Well, have you ever been part of mass layoffs? I have recently in my company. We laid off about 5% of our workforce, and they did tell us, hey,
you can't say anything.
Don't say anything. Someone asks you, media reaches out to you, say you don't know anything.
Right.
And more than likely that's what happened. Kotaku probably reached out to somebody at Naughty Dog, and they can't speak to these things. This is the problem with games media at times. That
it's not just a games media problem, it's a social media gaming problem. People were posting that thinking that they would get engagement. Look, I'm just going to say things to get engagement on my Twitter or my X, whatever it is now, or my YouTube. That's the real problem. People who are, they have zero knowledge about almost anything, and they're just consistently spewing nonsense just to get the like or the retweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was also a report that Faction seems to be on ice, not necessarily canceled, but on ice. Well, I was going to get into that here in just a second because we just found out, and this was according to. Now, this is I don't know how reliable the source is, but this was this is a tweet by Naughty Dog Info that Anders Howard, a principal monetization designer who joined Naughty Dog just under a year ago to work on the Last of Us multiplayer project, has left the studio. Howard previously worked at Epic Games. He helped design the core of Fortnite's Battle Pass and progression system. So I'm sorry, Warren, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I think it's canceled. I really don't think it's going to come out. I think the Factions was something that maybe a small group of really vocal people loved the first time around, but I don't think it's it's definitely not a Fortnite or a Call of Duty or a type of a game as a service that has a long tail that I think Sony's looking for. But I definitely think it's canceled. And I don't think what's strange is, think about this. Naughty Dog can go the entire PS5 generation and not release a game, and PlayStation's still going to outsell everybody, which is insane. But maybe their next game is a launch title for the PS6, or maybe it comes out at the tail end of the PS5 life cycle and it's cross-gen with PS6. I don't know. I know they're making an Uncharted game with Drake's daughter. When that comes out, I have no idea.
They're working on that. Yeah. We don't know when that's going to come out. So
they're not working on that, though.
They're not working on it. Oh, okay.
No, they're not. They're not doing that game.
I thought they teased that in the live action trailer.
I wouldn't think they would.
Naughty Dog's not working on that game.
No.
Is it someone else, NB?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it makes sense that it would be somebody else. We do know that they are making a new IP, single player IP. They're doing that, whatever that fantasy.
Is that a space game?
Space game, fantasy, sci-fi, something of that nature. It's very vague, so whatever, fill in the blank there. And then very strong rumors came out that they're working on The Last of Us 3, possibly. Just to be the contrary to worry, I don't think it's canceled. I do believe it's on pause. And it kind of alludes to both stories make sense if you hear this out. So with the game being paused, you have 3 situations. There's Worry's situation where he said it's canceled. Then there's the other where the monetization expert that came in that worked on Fortnite, etc., has left. Well, if they're taking a long pause and going back to the drawing board with Bungie, well, you really don't need the monetization guy, do you? So they're not going to just pay him to sit there and wait. So him not being there,
and maybe that was what was wrong with the game in the first place. Maybe that's why Bungie comes in and says that this isn't going to work. Because
correct.
You can't monetize The Last of Us the same way you monetize Fortnite.
Right. So he's coming in with his ideology and how he worked on prior IP that may have worked great for those types of battle royale. This is not a battle royale per se, if we're following factions even slightly. So like B Money said, his strategy may not have worked, and Bungie came in and said, that works very well for these different IP, doesn't work for this one. So that may be the reason why that person exited out. And then as far as the 25, QA folks, I mean, everybody at Naughty Dog is still employed. Everybody that works there is still working on multiple different projects. And in the other contrary to Worry saying they're not getting, I know he was saying hypothetically, which I get his point, and it was actually a good point, that PlayStation would still sell well even if they didn't. But you're going to see either the new IP or The Last of Us 3, or possibly even both before the end of this generation. So I think Naughty Dog. The other thing,
I don't think you're going to see both by the end of the generation. That's a lot of development time for two huge AAA games.
I don't think The Last of Us 3 would take as long this time around, to be honest with you. But you may be right, Worry. You may be right. I'm not going to stand on that soapbox. But I do think, what's funny is the internet and some of the gaming media being like, oh my God, Naughty Dog's in trouble. Meanwhile, Naughty Dog, they have so many trophies and awards, they don't have enough shelves. I think it's a little too early to start saying this team is in trouble when you're talking about a team that literally has Game of the Years, and they have an immense amount of awards throughout the industry, from art design to script, narration, voice actor. It just keeps going on. Director. Neil Druckmann's also one of those, he's just one of those kind of just one of those folks in the industry that seems hard-nosed and doesn't like to lose. I don't see him canceling something that he's worked this long on. I think it needs to be tweaked. We may not see whatever may be factions until maybe the second half of this generation, or maybe even the tail end. That's fine. But I don't think it's canceled. I definitely think it's going to go back into the oven with Bungie being there right there. And that's one of the things that also Jim Ryan said in an interview way back, was basically, our $3.6 billion for Bungie will pay dividends. Of course, I believe he took a jab at Microsoft's, Activision purchase. But that's not where I'm going with this. I'm just saying they feel very confident in what they picked up in the talent of Bungie to be able to come in and help out a fellow team and say, we're going to take what you have here, a very talented group that can do so much, and then what Bungie's going to take the ball in the red zone and put it, and they're going to punch it through for the touchdown. I think that's really what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, gentlemen, I do want to introduce Game Logic and Forte Just Thrive. Game Logic, how are you this evening, sir?
I think I'll respond when you call me by my appropriate title.
Oh, the Oracle. Apologies. The Oracle's here.
No worries. It's all good.
How are you this evening, Oracle?
I'm good, man. I'm living high on life and good predictions.
No doubt.
Eating my just desserts.
Yeah. And then we have with us Gaming Forte. Forte, how are you this evening?
I'm great, man. How are you? How's everybody in the chat? How's the panel, man? It's just been on high all day, man. It's been a great day, and I'm super happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you, man. No, I appreciate that. But I do want to go down the panelist here. B Money, I know you chimed in a little bit, and then I'll go to Logic and then Forte. What are your thoughts, B Money? Are you kind of in agreement with Worry that whatever iteration or whatever has been done is pretty much shelved, and maybe they're starting over again?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely just retooling it. Kind of like I said before. I think when Bungie came in, they saw what they had, and they just decided that's not going to work for the long tail. For what Jim Ryan brought Bungie in there for, that the way that the game was structured it just wasn't going to work. So, sometimes you go back in the kitchen and get back in the lab and you retool it and it comes back out. It's one of those things that Sony does. You know what I mean? Like, if they're going to cancel it, we would know that it was canceled. It would be, big news in the industry. Everybody would be talking about is being canceled. All the hubbub and the news about it is just that it's going to be on ice. And, it's the same thing that happened with God of War before it was rebooted. You know what I mean? Like, Anamaka came out with a version of God of War. They took it to Shuhei. Shuhei said, no, that's not going to work. So, it's just one of those things, I'm sure we'll see it, towards the end of the generation, and it probably won't be, what everybody thinks it's going to be, because they did have to go back and retool it. But I don't think it's canceled. They've been working on that new IP for a while now, and we heard about Last of Us 3 last year. They kind of semi confirmed it, so I wouldn't be surprised if both of those IPs came out along with Factions before this generation is over, because I think we're gonna be in this generation for at least another 5 or 6 years before we kind of jump to the next one. So it's definitely possible that we see all three of those things before we get to the next generation. This is actually the second time that Naughty Dog has worked on multiple IPs at the same time. They've grown their studio to the biggest it's ever been, and they have multiple projects going on at the same time, which is not something that they typically do.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that, B. I want to go to Game Logic, then to you, Forte. Logic, what are your thoughts about this? I know we talked a little bit earlier in the day about this this individual no longer being at Naughty Dog.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that that maybe the differences, the slight differences of opinion that some of us have, we may be mincing things too small. So for me, looking at it from a project management engineering perspective, it's if we're going back to pre-production, then as far as I'm concerned, in my head, in terms of kind of like managing a production pipeline, it's canceled for now. Right, you can look at that as it's canceled temporarily or whatever. But if we're sliding back to a point where 2 or 3 people, maybe 6, are kind of working on it in terms of coming up with going back to reworking the design doc or anything like that, and we're pulling all of the people who were post production ramp, then as far as I'm concerned, it's off the slate. There's not a noticeable level of effort going to it. It's not taking away from my current production pipeline. So maybe it's getting reoriented in the slate for later in the generation or something like that. But as far as I'm concerned, just for counting numbers and looking at what work each engineer, each developer, each team member is on, they're not on Factions. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's canceled. Because I'm not thinking about it from the I don't know, the cred perspective or whatever. But to me, that is a nothing burger. I think it was Worry who was talking when I first came in, and I feel the same way. Like, I feel like the demand signal for Factions is not, in my opinion, is not as big as people make it out to be when they're trying to say that this is when they're trying to dunk on PlayStation, right? That this is such a big deal. And it goes back very much so to the conversation we were having a few months ago when I said, I would be very surprised. Nights seemed very out of sync from my perspective in terms of the PlayStation investment portfolio, right? And what types of content it wanted to make and what types of things it needed to do to keep moving the needle. And there were lots of people who were saying, Nights has a robust community and they're resilient and it's got lots of support. And lo and behold, literally within 60 days of me making that comment on the show, they shuttered Nights and moved that development team over to something else. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know that Factions has a cult following and it is a jewel and a gem in people's eye. But I mean, to me, clearly, there was a willingness to divest of that level of effort as far as it being a big chunk of time that it was taking away from people and put them on something else.
Yeah. I want to go to Forte. What are your thoughts on Factions?
Pretty much the same as Logic. I mean, I think for the most part, it's just right now, like you think about what Warren just said, without a Naughty Dog game, they still have a crap ton of systems out there that they sold. They didn't even release one. I mean, yeah, they had some, remasters done by other companies that are under the Naughty Dog name, but nothing brand new from that studio during the PS5 generation. And the people that, predominantly want to play those multiplayer type games, Factions wasn't the game that all those people wanted to play because they still bought PlayStation. They bought it for other stuff. So it was just an additive thing. I think for the most part, there is a lot of people, shout out to BG being one of those people that really, really love Factions, and he takes this more serious than most. But for the majority and bigger scape of PlayStation gamers, they could care less, and they have the metrics on this, and it's just unfortunate that is this, but they also got to understand they only really get 1 or 2 shots at this. They don't want to waste the talent at that studio and not have it hit, because that sets that studio back. It sets back their plans on what they want to do with the live service environment. So they want to make sure that it's right, especially at their, top tier studios like Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, Insomniac, if they're doing stuff like that. They want to make sure those hit, because that's taking a lot of resources away that could be put towards the games that they know people want to play. Right now, they know that people want to play, Fortnite, Warzone. They know they want to play games like that on the PlayStation, but do they want to play those type of games from PlayStation on that PlayStation? Because there are the as much as we talk about there, that is a bubble that is huge. And at some point, you look at Epic. Epic is already going through laying people off, because yes, they're still selling and they're still making as much money as they're making before, but the scale of the amount of people that were playing that game 2 years ago to what's playing it now isn't the same. There's still a lot of gamers, but they're not all playing Fortnite no more. So that's probably another thing. They got, and they got, analytics on how many people are actually playing that game, and they're looking at risk averse, and they said, well, we don't want to really cancel it, but we want to put it off to the side. But for the most part, think about it. Do they really want to say that they canceled that IP or whatever they were working on? They'd rather just say we're going to put it on the back burner and we're going to let it mature into something different, or they're going to take their time and let that game basically just cook it oven a little bit longer before they actually decide to release it. And they got time. I mean, this generation is going to probably go to 2028, 2029. So it's not like they're going to be missing out on it, but I just think they don't want to waste the talent that they have at those studios, because those studios make amazing single player games, and they know that that's always what they're going to do. So they want to make sure whatever they do outside of that is something that is of the quality that they want it to be. And they want the players to make that decision, and not the fact that they don't think that they had a good enough product in the beginning. And that's unfortunately where they sit at right now.
Yeah. And Forte, I don't
see how Forte's feeling there, Brad. But Forte, the only thing is like that just doesn't sound like Naughty Dog's MO. I mean, hey, they're gonna cancel it, but we'll just tell people we're putting it on ice. People don't forget, especially in today's day and age. They're gonna ask, like, every time Neil gets on stage, they'll be like, "Where's Factions?" You know what I mean? Like, so like it's I don't really.
Well, they've been doing that for 5 years already, though. So that's nothing different. They showed us concept art years ago of that game. So trust me, they don't care about kicking the can down the road. They can put this game in a boot and say that we'll come back to it later. And like I said, I don't think they're not formally canceling the game, because I do think whatever the version of this game that they do plan on making, they will make. I just don't think it's going to be something that is what it is right now, because, and we put a lot of stock into what Bungie is doing, because that's the thing. We don't know exactly what Bungie is looking for. We can only talk about the games that they make, and we know the kind of cycle that they go through. We don't know how that's going to be interpreted at other studios that's outside of their purview. So we just got to kind of look and wait for that to happen. But that's why we're just basically grasping at straws, because Bungie has a big say in this, that it looks like it's going on. And
we're all meeting in the middle there, Forte, because I do the one thing you said there. I will. So this is when I was giving my 3 examples. The one that I left out, I apologize. Was that
no, you're good.
Is that basically is the worst case scenario is Factions 2 becomes a thing that gets put on as a multiplayer for The Last of Us 3. I mean, I think that's legitimately the worst case scenario.
True.
I think that's the worst case. The same way we had Factions with The Last of Us Part 1. They'll throw it on 3, and I shouldn't say throw. It'll be a much, much more robust version of what we got in the first.
Basically scale back from what they did at the beginning, where it was supposed to be added to Part 2, and they said it got too big.
It could be as simple as there are this new information that came out that doesn't look good behind the scenes when it comes to Faction, is 16 days before a huge AAA comes out for PlayStation and Spider-Man 2, and maybe that information about it being canceled will come at some point after that.
Yeah, that's true. You don't want to put out news like that when you have a huge IP that's coming out that's exclusive to your platform.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
I see it. No, I see what Worry's saying. I don't. I still don't. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, that holds water. You don't want bad press before your largest game of the year.
I don't know why. I just feel like it's canceled. I just feel like they're moving on to something that skews towards what they do really, really well. It could be wrong, but I don't know. I just feel that way.
The only reason you'd almost get me to walk that line with you on only every team except this one. I just don't see them putting this much amount of work into it and then being like, nah.
Yeah, but that's why I said ultimately it wasn't really their decision. It feels like on the outlook of the game. If it was just Naughty Dog and their outlook was the final outlook,
yeah,
and PlayStation was the one that was coming in and evaluating the game. And like you said, the reason they purchased Bungie is because they wanted that expertise. They wanted that, those eyes to actually look at it like that to see, hey, what is this game going to be? What is it going to do for us in the future? Is this going to be successful? And if it was PlayStation looking at this, it might have been greenlit a long time ago, and we probably would already have seen this game. But the fact that
if that was the case, we would have saw the game already. Because they talked about the game for 3 years before it got pushed back. So This is why I'm saying it wasn't about PlayStation, because I'm sure PlayStation and Bungie decided that, hey, this isn't going to work, because they probably looked at all the things that they worked on and what they bring to the table in live service, and Bungie, I'm sure, gave them a roadmap of what this game looks like based on how they had the game built initially, and they were like, no, this ain't gonna work. In a year, this game gonna be dead. In 6 months, this game gonna be dead. This is what you should do, and this is what we should implement. This, and that. And this is how we can restructure the game, and the game will have a longer tail if we do these things. I'm sure that's what the conversation was,
right?
Because there really hasn't. It doesn't seem like there's been like this crazy animosity from Naughty Dog towards Bungie.
No,
you know what I mean. So it's like they took the criticism. They took it on the chin, and now they got to go back and get back in the kitchen and retool the game.
My
you know what I mean?
Yeah. The only reservation I always had about this and Bungie being in the place that they had is there's not too many Destinies out there that can persevere like that. Like that's a studio that was known for one of the most important IPs that's ever released in gaming, and they built their name. They built most of their name off of that. Yes, they had games that came out before that, but they built it off that. People gave that game a chance because it was Bungie. That's why they did it. So I always feel like when you're talking about a new live service game, I don't know if everybody will get that same attention like Bungie did out the gate. Like, sure, Naughty Dog is a great studio, and we know that their pedigree is there, but we know that people will buy a game that's a single player game from them because they have shown the epitome of doing that. Now, they will get a lot of people that will try whatever live service game they get because they do have a name behind them. But I just always looked at like Bungie, like I trust Bungie, but I only really trust them with their own things because they control their own things. Having them like looking at everybody else's stuff, I understand that PlayStation doesn't really operate in that realm, so they need some type of expertise. But I always felt like giving them so much autonomy, and we don't know truly how much autonomy it is. We just know that they're not fully under the PlayStation banner; they're squarely under the Sony banner, under like right next to PlayStation. That's all we really know about the agreement that they have. So it's just interesting to see all of these different things happen. And this isn't probably going to be the end. It's going to be more and more information that comes out about it. And I don't think there's any animosity or anything. I do think that the studios do work and talk really, really well with each other. I just find it interesting that the more and more we hear about this game, the more and more I just feel like this game is either never coming or is not coming anytime soon in this generation. And it's going to be something that's going to be towards the back half end of it.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's totally possible because if we are taking, Bungie's autonomy across all of PlayStation Studios, we've seen trailers for three live service games, and one of them is actually releasing pretty soon in February, I believe. So it's like those games, whatever those games are doing, they got it right, and they were able to show their trailer. Concord is scheduled to release next year. We know Marathon is coming. Bungie's working on another IP, but beyond that, and we got to see Jade Raymond's game. So those games obviously got the A-OK to be shown and start to roll out. So whatever Naughty Dog is working on, obviously it wasn't working because those other games got the A-OK, and Arrowhead has been working on that game for like 8 years now. Like they had a different trailer. The game was in a different perspective and everything. It was in the original perspective when they first started working on it. They changed the perspective, turned it into a third-person shooter. Changed the camera angle and everything. They got the A-OK. Now the game is about to release. So whatever Naughty Dog was doing, it wasn't right, and that's why we haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, B. And I think my opinion on all this is that I think they've gone back to the drawing board, and they said, you know what, whatever we have right now isn't working. Obviously there's some feedback from Bungie. I think it's a great point, B, about that the other games got greenlit. We've seen more, footage of some of the other live service games that they're coming out with. I think this just goes on the back burner for right now, and I'm okay with that. Like I would rather them take the time to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they need to do to make this game work, as opposed to trying to shoehorn something in that might not resonate with people.
And I think the way that they're going to make it work is it's going to be structured like Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be story content in there. There's going to be characters that we fall in love with. Like the way that they're structuring the show, where like the second season really isn't supposed to be about the second game, and we're going to be introduced to all these other characters, and we're supposed to care about these characters until to the third season, wherever the case may be. I think that's what they want to do with the game. They want to structure the game to where like we fall in love with all these other characters beyond just Joel and Ellie. And I think that the game is going to be structured just like Destiny. It'll be an evolving world. We'll get, these content updates maybe once or twice a year, and that's how they'll keep people engaged in the game.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to point out is, some things Corey is mentioning in the chat, and I think I get where you're coming from, Corey. I don't think this is the typical, foaming at the mouth, slobbering all over themselves, fanatic that's in the chat normally, trying to heckle and shout us down. But I think the point we're trying to make, I think some of us are trying to make is, you don't fire and send away a large chunk of your QA department, and maintain schedule and track on a development project. And so what I think is a relatively clear indicator is that between the report that we got earlier that Bungie said this ain't it, and then these layoffs happening, there's to me a clear indicator that says we are taking our time with this and folding our hands and not pushing to put this game out on the same timeline and as part of the slate that it was originally projected for. And in the meantime, because of the statements that they've made, which is, focusing on some of their other games, that there's going to be an additional effort to focus on getting some things out that are in the pipeline that aren't in the state where they need to be retooled. A plausible reason why you send away a good chunk of the QA department is because you don't have content that needs to be tested on a strict, rigid, regimented, deterministic schedule. Maybe there's a bunch of other testers on deck. Typically, in order to test a game through final system test and get it through end user testing, you need contractors. You typically don't employ enough testers on the development team full time as part of the full time staff of the studio to get through getting a game out through. I would say through that, at least the midpoint of main production to the end. And so the indicator is that there's not enough content and there's not enough work for those people to do at this point because the team is taking more time with the game. That is what is leading to the comments of the game being on ice, the game being on a deep pause, questions of when it's going to come out in this generation.
Yeah, and I see some people going back and forth about the QA thing or the QC thing, and I think what Captain Ply is not understanding. Yeah, I think in one instance you would use QC if the game's about to drop. In other instances, if the work's not there, as you just explained, Logic, if you're not at that point of the software development lifecycle, you would need those individuals anyway. Why would you keep them on your payroll? At that point, you're just burning through money. You don't need to do that. So, any other thoughts on factions before we move on to the next subject? All right. Someone mentioned earlier, I think it was you, Mooch. October stacked, right, Mooch? Mooch, how much, Mooch? Where are you going to find time to play all these games?
I don't know. I to be honest with you, I was planning to at 12:01 a.m. Eastern time. I was going to download. I was going to get Assassin's Creed, and I'm still on the fence because I really the whole fact that the thing that's getting negative reviews is because it's shorter. It's like they took a step back from the early days. Those words are actually encouraging me to want to buy the game. I agree with you. Origins and Valhalla, 300 hours to complete. If you just held the left on the left analog stick, it would just go on for a half an hour. 75,000 little icons of things to do. Those just got monotonous and boring for me. So the fact that they've shortened it down, get back to the and I'll be honest with you, I don't like games like Thief. I didn't really care for Dishonored. I've said that a number of times. But the original Assassin's Creed, the way that they mixed the story with the way that you would do the stealth kills, it was like peanut butter and jelly. It just kind of went together real well. So just to answer your question, I'm probably going to pause on Assassin's Creed because, as far as October goes alone, there's the 2 or 3 games that I'm still finishing up from this summer in September. And then you've also got games that are coming out. Like I want to play. I'm definitely going to buy Alan Wake 2. I'm definitely buying that day one. That's. I don't give a shit what it scores. I'm going to buy that game. I'm going to play it. Spider-Man 2. I'm going to platinum that game. There's just no question about that. And then there's Mario Wonder. It doesn't really end. There's just not enough time in the day. So there's your backlog of games. There's new games. There's games like, and I know that not everybody in the panel cares for this, but you guys know I do love I like Call of Duty. I put it every single week. I have new gameplay on Crossfire. I play that all the time, whether it be multiplayer or Warzone. So I enjoy that. This weekend I'm going to be playing the beta on PS5. So those games even take a lot of time away from my single player experiences and finishing my catalog there. So yeah, I don't know, Brap. To be honest with you, I'm sure I hope I didn't take it too long there. You probably have an October question, but there's just so many games coming out, and there's just not enough sand in the hourglass. There just isn't. No, there's not enough time to play all these games, and I want to bring up Assassin's Creed Mirage. That's one of the games that where the reviews are coming in for that game, and actually I did read that too. One of the complaints was that it was too short, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit too. But it was too short. It was more of a compact, more kind of a nod to the older Assassin's Creed, right, where they weren't this massive open world, game like Odyssey or Valhalla, which I just couldn't get into. Assassin's Creed kind of lost me after Black Flag, really. But this seems this is kind of more of a nod to the earlier Assassin's Creed, and so when I heard some of those critiques, I'm like, yeah, actually that resonates with me. Like I actually would. I'm not going to play it now because I just don't have time to play the game because of all the stuff that's coming out. But that actually was something that I was excited to read about. And for those that are curious, it's currently sitting at a 77 Metacritic at the moment. So the reviews are pretty good. I know some people think a 77 is bad. 77 is not a bad game. It's actually a good game. 70% of the reviews are positive according to Metacritic of Assassin's Creed Mirage. And then is anyone on the panel planning on picking up Assassin's Creed Mirage?
I'm not.
I'll probably pick it up on Black Friday.
I was just gonna say,
yeah,
Yeah,
Pete.
I'm not gonna play it like right away. So
too close to the holiday for deals.
you know what's funny? So Forte, maybe you can let us all in on this. Like every year, I end up usually buying every game that comes out, and it just goes. Most of them you play the one major title, and a lot of the smaller ones will get pushed to the backlog. This is the first year I'm looking forward to when whether it be game, I'm gonna definitely give Forte his flowers, or whether it be GameStop or it be Walmart or it be Best Buy, it doesn't matter. I can't wait because the games that I've already got on my mind that I'm probably going to pick up on sale when they drop to like $20, $25 during like the holidays. I'm definitely going to pick up I want to own Lies of P. I'll probably pick up AC Mirage. I was trying to think there was another game out there too that I was like, you know what? I really want to play this game. Is it Ghost Runner 2? Probably pick that
Ghost
up.
Runner 2. Yeah.
I'm going to pick that up during the holidays. These are games that, if they dip, especially Mirage. Is Mirage $50 as of right now?
Yeah, it's 50 brand new.
If it's 50 new, you like that? If it's $50 brand new, I mean, this could easily get to $25-$30. Same thing goes for Lies of P. That's a cheaper entry price right now. Now I can go pick up 2-3 games for maybe $65-$75. That's and I get to enjoy the games that are out now, which again for October, everyone's tastes are different, but the Mario Wonder game, Alan Wake 2, and of course Spider-Man, it's like that's where I think I'm going to settle in. But this is a year, guys, to really pay attention to those holiday sales. You can really pick up some, I would say, bangers for on the cheap this year.
I actually think this year is probably going to be one of the bigger years for Black Friday. Just for game sales, just because there's been so many games and everybody can't play all the games when they come out. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking for the best deals they can find this Black Friday.
Forte,
Yeah,
where's that Black Friday list, Forte, for GameStop?
Black Friday list. We still got a whole month for that. No, I agree. I just think that just think about all the games that came out earlier this year that people, if you didn't have to play it day one, you skipped over. It's a lot, going all the way back to, Dead Space that was at the end of last year, Callisto that was at the beginning of this year, and a lot of those games are like $30 now. Resident Evil 4, it's just gonna be a lot of stuff competing for people's money this holiday too. So you got a new VR from Oculus, the MetaQuest 3 coming out this year. You're gonna have people doing that. So people are gonna be looking for a very, very palatable way of spending their money when it comes to like some of the games. And I definitely can see, just like you see every year, you'll see NBA and Madden drop to like $30 and $35 every holiday, even though the game's only been out 2 months. It always happens. Assassin's Creed, like you said, will probably drop to something like, I can see it going down to like, since it's a $50 game, it usually drops down to $39. It could easily drop to $30, $25. I can see it. So I just think there's going to be some aggressive marketing, especially at the retail side, because we are getting closer and closer to that ever so crazy 80-85% digital attach rate to people buying online. So you're going to see retailers doing a really Target does the buy one get one free every year. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So yeah, I always tell people, if it's something that you don't have to play day one because you just have other games to play, just wait, because you'll save way more money during the end of the year than you will buying those games right up front, unless you want to play them day one.
Yeah. There's another game coming out. Actually, despite if you're a Game Pass subscriber, I don't think technically you get the game day and date, but Forza Motorsport is being reviewed right now, and actually that early access starts tomorrow. Oracle, what is it? $100 for the early access?
Dude,
I don't know if that's the only way to do it. Because anytime I buy Forza, I always get the like VIP package and whatever, the Ultimate Edition or whatever it is. So that's just the only SKU that I looked at, and that is $99, I think.
Okay,
I think they have just like they did with Horizon and like they had with Starfield, where you can pay
upgrade.
You could get the $30 upgrade and you can start playing it early in Game Pass. Since they give you the game on the day of, you could just buy into the DLC and then you'll get access the week early.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Forza is being reviewed right now. It's currently sitting at a 85 Metacritic right now. For those of you who are interested in it, it's got a couple hundred review scores, and then it just goes down from. Obviously, we'll go down from there, but that's
obviously,
yeah. I mean, right? But no, it's that comes out tomorrow. So now I know Logic, you're a big Forza fan, big sim racing fan. What are you looking forward to with this iteration of Forza Motorsport?
Nothing super specific. I'm just glad that the game's finally out. I mean, it's in the wake of all the things that have slipped, and slid on the Xbox plate. It is, approaching, being notable as the flagship, and so I'm just glad that it's finally here.
Yeah. My son's actually trying to. I think he's my oldest plays Forza quite a bit. I think he's going to pick up the early access tomorrow as well. So I'm kind of curious. I'm not a Forza Motorsport fan. I haven't been in many years. So it's going to be a game that I skip. But again, I mean, it's just another example of what I'm calling the onslaught of 2023. I know Forte, when we had Colin on yesterday, we talked about and asked him what he thought about the year 2023 for video games. And I think he said, if I remember correctly, Forte, I think he said it might be right up there with like 2007.
He sure did.
Yeah, and I don't remember all the games that came out in 2007.
Listen, all I got to do is remember is Halo 3 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out that year. That's all you need to remember.
That's all. Yeah, exactly.
The two biggest and greatest shooters of all time came out that year. And
God, Halo 3 was so good, wasn't it?
So it was so good. Hey, man, that was Microsoft used to market like crazy. Billboards everywhere. Times Square was taking over. It was pretty incredible. And then come to find out, Call of Duty did better.
Yeah, Call of Duty did do better. I mean, Call of Duty was just. I mean, I think that's kind of when it was.
That was the year that
turning point.
That was the turning point. Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare was the turning point for Call of Duty. That's where it just went into the stratosphere.
That's when Call of Duty sucked all the air out of the room, for the first time. And I remember that. It was insane.
Came out the week after Halo. Halo was November 9th, and Call of Duty was the week after. And
I remember
ridiculous.
Forte, I remember we were playing Halo 3, and it was we all put our controller Halo 3 down. All right, everyone's going to Call of Duty now. Literally. Yeah. Well, that was insane.
That was it, man.
Yeah. So the onslaught continues in October, and then we get Spider-Man2 on October 20th. I feel like I'm missing another game here in the month of October. Let me one sec here. Let me just do a quick Google search here. Am I, Forte, giving your expertise in game releases? Is there any other big releases?
Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, Alan Wake 2. The only other game I'm looking forward to is Mario Wonder. That's it. Nothing else.
Which
Mario Wonder.
Yeah,
that game's going to be incredible.
Yeah, Alan Wake 2 comes out October 27th, so a week after Spider-Man 2. And then Mario, when's the release for Mario Wonder?
20th. Yeah, same thing as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's going to be a crazy midnight that night.
Yeah, Forte, I expect that you're going to be... Lord, Basil in the live chat said Lords of the Fallen comes out too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. That comes out this month too.
Yeah, throw that on my that's going to go on the as B Money was saying, that definitely check it out during the holiday sales. That's another holiday pickup for sure.
Yeah, the 20th is going to be crazy. It's 9 p.m. launches for Spider-Man and then midnight for Mario Wonder.
And Forte, you're excited for City Skylines too, right?
I am. Dude, I already got it pre-ordered.
When does that come out? Oh my God. When does that come out?
Man, I have all the
October 24th.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, bro. If you ever go to Steam and look at all the DLC you could buy for City Skylines, you'll understand. It's ridiculous.
I gotta take over
I bought all of it.
Rap. I gotta ask Forte a question. Forte,
yeah,
one of the games, and this is something I never talk about because it's not a game that a lot of people on podcasting want to talk. I played Sim City pretty much every day for Maxis.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, I did too, Booch.
Dude, I lived in Sim City on EA.
Yeah,
I lived on that game.
Now look at what it's metamorphosized into with City Skylines. SimCity, I when I say hours, I mean just I could not get enough of it. And I was watching a review on this upcoming game that you're talking about, Forte, and they were like, "If this is this by the makers of SimCity, or is this literally just its successor?"
It's basically its successor. Maxis is no longer around anymore. It might be some of the people that came over from Maxis to the studio.
Some of the folks came over, maybe.
But City Skylines is the epitome of what you can get in the city builder. It's like, huh?
What did you say?
City Skylines.
No, you said it's the pinnacle. What?
It's the pinnacle.
Oh, the pinnacle. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What did you say? You sound like you put a B in there.
I thought you said the pinnacle.
No, I said pinnacle, Dirt.
Okay. Thank you.
No, but I love it. It's one of those games that you can literally just sit there. I mean, you did it in Sims. Yeah, you did it in SimCity, but it's like one of those games that you could just sit there for like 7-8 hours and literally just critique every little thing about your city. And I done it before. I literally sat there for like 12 hours one day just working on how my street system was going to work before I put a building down. It was crazy, but I'm looking forward to it.
In that game, it's also like, is it like, because I remember same thing with SimCity. Like I would literally spend, like I'd stay up to like 3-4 in the morning playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like
easily.
it was again. This is 20 something years ago. I was younger. BRAP had a little more energy.
A little more energy.
Didn't have 20 chickens and 4 kids and a horse, and you guys know the rest of the story. And before I was an Xbox Live beta tester, which I don't know if you know if you guys know that I was a.
I never heard of that before.
Yeah. So true story. So is it the same thing? Like you design your city, you build roads, you put in the plumbing, the
name any city builder is that name any city builder and is that plus times 10. Plus, you get natural disasters and stuff you could put in the game.
You get UFO invasions because that was one of the things.
You can they have packs.
Fires.
Like I bought every pack that they have for City Skylines on PC, and there is a lot of them.
Oh man,
I probably spent. If you think about it, it's probably close to $1,000. If you think about how much each pack cost over the course of
you spent $1,000
how long this game on that game. Well, I bought most of the packs when they had like sales. Like right now, they have a Humble Bundle. I don't know if it's still going. It was going last week. They had a Humble Bundle where you could buy the game and pretty much all the DLC for like $30, but it was like over $1,000 worth of games in DLC. Because it's a lot of DLC if you don't buy it as it comes out. Because they update that game pretty regularly. So I know when Logic or the Oracle, when he talks about City Skylines, that's the type of game that you'll lose yourself in for hours of time that you don't even know how you did it.
Wow. Yeah. See, this is I tell you, this is. Oh man, I have choices to make, decisions to make, and I'm assuming you use mouse keyboard for this game, Forte.
Yeah, but it's on console too. So I mean, who knows how it's going? I mean, it's on console now. You can play it on there. I never played it on console. It just doesn't feel right to play it without a keyboard and mouse. But yeah, it's in Game Pass day one, so it's definitely a game that if anybody wants something that's leisurely, they just want to try to see what they're create, because it's basically all about your creativity. If you're a creative person, you can literally build something. And I know like YouTube channels and people that did architecture and stuff like that and built cities and built skyscrapers that played that game, and they take that type of stuff real serious because there's a lot of different nuances that the game has that you don't know about on a simulation level that kind of works in both areas.
Wow. All right. Well, go ahead.
We also have so City Skylines, the original, is on console. City Skylines 2 is delayed on console, so it's hitting PC first.
PC Game Pass first.
But and we also have 2 big collections coming out this month. Batman Arkham Trilogy coming out for the Switch on October 13th, and Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1 coming out on the 24th.
I got a pre-order of both those 2 days ago.
I was going to ask, anyone outside Forte interested in either one of those bundles?
I may pick up the Arkham Trilogy thing for the Switch just to have it in portable format.
Okay. Yeah, I was
don't you have a Steam Deck? Logic?
And he knows it's going to play terrible on that Switch, and he's still getting it.
That's not going to be
leave me alone, Mooch.
Okay.
No, listen. But this is the thing I be talking about. Like, it's nothing wrong with it, but for some reason, people do not care about the performance of the games on a Switch. They only care is the fact that they can play it on a Switch on the go. That's why Mortal Kombat is terrible. By the way, nobody should play Mortal Kombat on the Switch. Mortal Kombat 1 is horrible. It plays horrible. But guess what? A lot of people bought it because it's a portable format that you can play, and you can't do that on any other platform unless you're going to fork out $600-700 to get like a Steam Deck to do it over there.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, my fingers are crossed that Arkham Trilogy is not going to be as bad as Mortal Kombat. I wouldn't buy Mortal Kombat on the Switch just to have it in a portable format. And and you guys are right. I missed the update that Mortal Kombat, that Arkham Trilogy got pushed back to December. So I'll take that off the table. But just for the sake of conversation, and again, this is not me trying to paint a profile of a typical average consumer. But yes, I do have a Steam Deck and I have a Switch. They are both portable. The ergonomics for them are slightly different, depending on whether or not I'm flying, the size of the aircraft, where I'm going to be, whether I'm going to be at a desk or, or on the go a lot, versus, personal travel versus business travel. That does sometimes decide, whether or not I'm carrying my Switch or my Steam Deck. So again, I just like having a diversified portfolio of games and having games available multiple places where I can play them. So that's what puts this on my radar for picking up on the Switch.
Hold on. Did you just say that it depends on how you fly?
No. It depends on how I travel. So whether or not I'm flying, whether or not it's a long distance flight, whether or not I'm on puddle jumpers, just depends.
You still sitting in the chair. You can play a Switch or a Steam Deck in the chair. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I don't look. I'm not a small man. I don't have. It depends on what the size of the aircraft is. If I want a larger aircraft and I have more room, carrying the Steam Deck isn't as big a deal. But sometimes I just like to.
I got you.
Sometimes I just like to travel as light as I can.
I wanted to get to the bottom. I was like, "What's he talking about?" It's like
Logic is 6'10".
Oh
no, man. I'm not tall. I'm more wide than I am tall. But again, this is I
am too.
I'm not painting the profile of a typical consumer. I am hyper OCD about my mobile equipment. I used to be a phone reviewer and a mobile equipment reviewer, so I mince those things into very tiny details that other people won't. So I get that, but that was my point.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're good. That was just funny.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of other games, October, Spider-Man 2 is coming out, as I mentioned earlier, October 20th.
Shortest game ever.
Yeah, apparently it's way too short. God forbid. I mean, this is terrible news. I'm angry. I'm really, really angry. It should be 100 hours long.
It's only that long because I got to chase pigeons again.
Yeah, exactly. So the alleged leak is that it's 20 hours in length, 30 hours to complete to get the platinum, and people are upset. It's too short. God forbid if a game is not 100 hours long. Like
I love a game that's that short.
What is happening here? Like why?
What people are upset? What people are upset?
Right.
Yeah. People
I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah. I've seen people on Twitter, social media. I see some YouTube pundits.
Right. Curiously, these are people who are in love with Phil Spencer and Xbox, right?
Oh man.
Well, I don't know if all. Well, I mean, some of them are, yes, but
most of them are.
Some of the live chat said bots. I mean, I wouldn't say it's all those diehard fanatics.
I can guarantee you that I will be playing Spider-Man 2 for longer than 30 hours. Most people will. I think New Game Plus will add to that. I think just, being an idiot like I am when I play games like this, superhero games where I just swing around the city and do goofy stuff, that adds to it. I'm sure the story will be great. It's Insomniac. Why are we still questioning Insomniac and their output and what they do? I don't understand it. So it's just ridiculous. It really is. It's so boring. It's so boring of a topic. It's so, when people talk about this stuff, it's so, why are we still doing this? You know what I mean? Why are we still doing this?
Well, I think it's
talking about
Yeah.
Length. And you know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. How long was Hi-Fi Rush? Was that a good game?
Yeah, I think a lot of people enjoyed it.
So did I. Wasn't very long. Much less than 30 hours. So it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible. This conversation around a game being too short it's a kind of a head scratcher for me. Like, not every game needs to be 50, 60, 100 hours. Like, I'm coming off like multiple 50+ hour games now. I was playing Tears of the Kingdom. I went to the Final Fantasy 16.
God, that's like 100 something hours.
Then I went into Baldur's Gate 3. Then I went into Starfield, and now I'm playing Phantom Liberty, which, by the way, I think it could be a Game of the Year contender. I know people don't want to recognize DLC content as potential Game of the Year, but why not? Why can't DLC be Game of the Year? A Game of the Year contender or in the conversation?
No, I'm right there with you, BRAP. Actually, you took my sentiment exactly. I'm in the midst of playing. I'm 63 or 67 hours into Final Fantasy 16. I am playing. I started Cyberpunk from the beginning because I didn't play it before. I've owned it since day one, but it was a mess. When update 2.0 came out,
okay,
I started a new character. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. And then I played 30 hours of Starfield. It's like at this point right now, maybe it's because starting from the summer till now, these games have all been taking up somewhere. They're all 60+ hour games. Some of them flirting with over 100. I welcome a 30-hour campaign. That's why I even started the show tonight saying the most alluring part of the new Assassin's Creed is that it's a shorter campaign. It's not going to be a 300-hour Assassin's Creed Origins ordeal. So I agree with you. I mean, maybe this is just coming at the right time. I understand what you're saying and bringing up the topic. I get it because people are talking about it. But realistically, this might be the best time for a game like this to be getting that publicity, because after people have gotten done, whether you said you like Starfield or not, right? Every review on Starfield, you got to play it for 30, 40, or 75 hours before you realize you like it.
I mean, I finished the game in 48 hours, the main campaign. And clearly there's a lot more to do, but if I said, hey, it's only 48 hours, and for an RPG, that's terrible, that would be pretty disingenuous.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing with this 30-hour nonsense. It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. So I could say, playing all the other Spider-Mans that Insomniac's made so far, Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2018, I have no problem with playing 30 hours. And I agree with Worry. I'm going to go for the plat. I've platinumed the other two games. I'm going to plat this one. I got to be honest, I'm probably going to be, I'll be closer to 40 easily. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I enjoy, there's people I know on Twitter, they're literally posting, they're like, I was bored. I legitimately blasted some music and was just swinging through the city in Miles Morales. You know what I mean? So yeah. Like, you'll do that. That runs the clock. You don't have to say it, but I mean, that's why I said I'll probably be 40 something hours into this to get the platinum and just enjoying everything. The map's double in size. I should have, before the show, maybe before Crossfire, I'll take a look. I got to look at my hours for Miles Morales and for Spider-Man 2018. But like, realistically, I know
right now. Yeah,
I put in a ton of hours into that. So, yeah, I don't know, BRAP. I don't think it's a big deal at all, and I think that Spider-Man is going to take, I think, the entire gaming community by storm. I think it's going to be something. We were talking about meta scores. I think this thing's going to do very, very well. Very well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this game is reviewed very well. Gets really good reviews just based on the previous Spider-Man games we've played. But again, my point is, I don't think every game has to be 40, 50, 70 hours long. 17 hours. Like, if the game was 17 hours long, I'd be okay with it. It'd be a nice game to get into. Having played all these other games that I've put in 40+ hours into, be a nice kind of palate cleanser, and to go back into something else. Like I'm in the process of playing Phantom Liberty, which is probably my second favorite game that I played so far this year. It's phenomenal. And what I saw somebody say this in the live chat. What a comeback story.
Do you have to beat the main campaign to play that?
No, you don't.
Okay. Yeah,
there's two ways that you can play Phantom Liberty. You can either take your current playthrough, and you actually have to play 10 hours of the game, the regular game, before you can trigger Phantom Liberty, or it gives you the option to start a brand new character and start immediately with that brand new character in Phantom Liberty. So there's two ways to do that. I actually am doing a second playthrough where I was already at that 10 plus hour mark, and I triggered the events that allowed me to start the Phantom Liberty DLC, and then you can actually go back and forth between Phantom Liberty and the main campaign of Cyberpunk 2077. So it's, if you look at the reviews, highly critical game, and I this wasn't really an official topic per se, but I brought this question up. I think it was to you, Logic. I think we were talking about this, and I said, is it out of the realm of possibility that a DLC, a game that's being critically reviewed very well, and kind of just the comeback story of Cyberpunk. We know that Cyberpunk launched in a pretty bad state, especially on consoles. CD Projekt Red really wasn't very transparent with the state of the not the PlayStation version, but the console versions of Cyberpunk 2077, and a lot of people had issues playing with it. And
neither was the community with all them yellow chairs that fucking lied to everybody and said the game was great.
Yes.
Now, is the DLC able to be played without owning the original game, Cyberpunk 2077?
No,
you have to own the game.
So then you might have a problem saying that could be a game of the year. You know what I mean? If it was separate into of itself, maybe, but it's a DLC for a game. So that game would have to be judged based on the totality of the game itself and the DLC. If it was separate, like a Miles Morales, people said Miles Morales was DLC to Spider-Man, but they made it separate. It's kind of its own thing. It's kind of its own game. You might have a problem with that being game of the year.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. I guess what my question is that being said, I mean, like, couldn't we still? You could still pull up. You could. Pull
I believe it could. I'm just saying, you probably would run into a problem with that if it's just an additive experience to a main game being considered a game in and of itself for game of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, and again, as I make this comment, this is not to slander anyone's opinion, but I mean, a lot of these things to me are again like semantics and arbitrary lines. And again, I'm not saying that as a personal statement towards anyone's opinions. One of the points of discovery that we had on Enough to Keep Going was, we do gaming superlatives at the end of every year. We don't do game of the year. And every co-host comes with their list in our 15, 16, 17, 18 categories or whatever. And one of the years, Forte mentioned it, with Destiny 2 when it kind of turned the corner with one of its DLC things. I had been complaining about Destiny 2 a lot that year, but going into the gaming superlatives, I looked at metrics and saw how much I had been playing, right, of the title, and really looked back at a lot of my experiences. And we had a discussion that year where we allowed, that was the year that we broke the whole, DLC expansion pack, whatever, can't be in certain categories, and games as a service can't be in certain categories. And I was like, look, guys, let's just look at the industry and let's realize that as far as uptake goes, and as far as gamer time goes, and as far as what people are buying and what people are engaging in, those rules are old, right? They no longer matter. They're no longer pertinent. Now, I personally don't believe that this is the year that DLC gets into the game of the year conversation, but that's a statement about on the media, right? Because I don't believe that people like Jeff Grubb are going to go to the TGAs and vote and allow things like DLC. And that's I'm just picking Grubb as an example. It's not a slander on Jeff Grubb, but I just don't think that the media is oriented around that kind of artistic mentality with regards to what gets in and what gets out.
I think, because what you said is very, very true. I think a game like that, unless a person that's doing their vote, and they're one of those people that lives in one of those games that pretty much operates year round, and like Fortnite or even Destiny, you're not really going to see it kind of break into that game of the year category, like DLC, even that type of stuff, because I've been fighting it for a while, because I've never put Destiny, and everybody knows I have way too many hours in that game, but I've never put Destiny in my top 5 in games of all time for me, because I just feel like it doesn't belong there. But I had a real interesting conversation with one of my friends, and he was like, well, how can it not be? And you dedicated years of your gaming life to that game. And I was like, then when you put it that way, I kind of think about it. I was like, you know what? It's just kind of the way your thought process on it. Like, I'm like, yeah, I love the game, but I don't love it more than these other games. But I decided to play this game more than any other game I've ever played. And that's just due to the type of game that it is. And I just don't think that there's a lot of people out there that vote on games that play games like that in order for something like that to kind of permeate enough to actually make a dent to get into the game of the year conversation. So that's why it's so hard. And then it's even smaller when you're thinking about people that just play like stuff that's like an additive thing, like a DLC or something like that. So it's even smaller at that state.
Yeah. Well, I know, Logic, you mentioned Jeff Grubb, and I'm assuming you that's referred to the VGAs, right? TGAs,
VGAs. People have been mixing up the acronym for the last couple of years. Yeah.
Or as people call them, the Keeleys. But what about like some of the other award shows like GDC and DICE?
I mean, I pulled this thread a couple of years ago, and I'm totally open to somebody going and doing the math again and proving me wrong. But when I took a look at this, and I took a look at metrics and data and looked at all the various award shows, and the year that I was looking at was 2017, and I was looking at the Resident Evil 2 remake. And while the Resident Evil 2 remake got a lot of awards, it did not stack a lot of awards as Game of the Year. And it generally got what I thought I saw, what I remember from seeing from pulling the awards data was it generally got kind of lower tier awards. So it got a nod. But I mean, particularly when you look at a lot of the awards that I look at, which are, the ones voted on by actual creators in the industry and industry professionals and not the media, it was, I don't want to say it was snubbed, but it just wasn't given the accolades that other games were. And like from that point forward, I've just always kind of had the stance that the industry in general gives greater credence to games that are built from the ground up rather than remakes.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I mean, and there's I'm sure entering that conversation will be the Resident Evil 4 remake that released earlier the year. So, but Mooch, I'm curious to get your thoughts when you get to it. Phantom Liberty, and as you play through Cyberpunk, because I played it when it released in 2020 on PC, of course, because that's the best place to play video games. Mooch, I don't know if you know that or not, but it is.
Well, so they're the one thing that they did set up, and I believe it's GOG that's their website. If I'm wrong, guys, correct me. But I signed up. Right, so I signed up on their launcher. I have the game on PC. I have it on Steam. I have it on PC and I have it on PS5. So I'm literally, it depends on the night. If I'm in here doing work or something like that, I start up Cyberpunk on PC. Then I literally shut everything down in the office. I'll go into the family room, pick up the PlayStation controller, turn on Cyberpunk, and bang, there's the cloud save.
Yeah.
And it's right where I left off. So I'm able to play this game and go back and forth. The one thing I'm doing, because we're going into, and we're not going to go backwards on topics. There's so many games. I'm not usually like that's what's taking me so long. I'm trying to get every trophy and go through Final Fantasy 16 in depth. Because I think BRAP, you beat Final Fantasy 16, and I think you beat it in like, I want to say somewhere between 20 and 30 hours probably. And
I think it was a little bit more than that, but yeah, I mean,
okay. I don't remember what your number was on that, but I got I'm over 60 something hours.
Oof.
And I'm not even close to getting all the trophies. So I'm close, but not close enough. So my point being is that this game here, Cyberpunk, I will get to the DLC, but again, I'm pushing that to the right because I want to get through the main campaign and then go in. I know that it's a standalone, but I've had enough people tell me now that have played the DLC, and Brad, maybe you can answer this with a yes or no. Does it help to go through the main story first, or no? You really can just start this game. You can start the DLC. Doesn't matter.
You can start the DLC.
Oh, really?
Well, you got to get to a certain part in the single player to start that part of the game, though.
Or you could start a brand new build and just jump right.
Oh yeah, if you start a brand new build, you can. But if you want to use your current character, you have to get to a certain progression in the game to do it.
You have to get to about 10 hours into the game.
I'm past that. So I mean,
Did you do the Voodoo what is it the Voodoo Boys?
Yeah, it's a Voodoo Boys mission.
Did you do that mission, Mooch?
I don't believe so.
Okay, that's the mission. Keep an eye for that. That if you decide to take your current character and go into the DLC, that's the mission that you have to do first. It's with the Voodoo Boys.
Okay, cause it's funny because I just looked at it. I just at 10 hours on Cyberpunk.
Yeah. I will say the other thing is kind of relevant because the developer we're talking about, Witcher 3 did win Game of the Year on its own by itself. And in a lot of people's eyes, the DLC for that game was way better than the original game.
Right.
And I'm one of them.
Oh, which DLC? Both of them? Blood and Wine, or was it? God, what is it? Was it
the Blood and Wine one? Yeah. That DLC was better than the main game. Literally, was one of the most incredible things that game ever that produced. And that game already had Game of the Year written all over it, and they didn't even. And then you see that DLC did nothing else but just enhance the legacy of that game. It didn't get no Name of the Year nods or anything like that for the DLC with the complete edition or anything. So I kind of think it's going to be the same thing. People just really don't look at DLC, even as no matter how good it is, they just don't really look at that as something that you put into a Game of the Year conversation.
Mm-hmm. So here's my other thing, and where I'll directly oppose BRAP and his hypothesis is, we're not doing forgiveness awards, and we're not doing retroactive. Like, you get Game of the Year because you stuck with it. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna throw the bullshit flag on that, because I'm not gonna entertain and allow entry into argument any discussion of Jedi Survivor being in the Game of the Year conversation, because of the state that game came out in, and the studio that's behind it, and the publisher that's behind it, and the length of time that it took them to get that game wired the way it should have been at launch. And so Cyberpunk, as great as Phantom whatever may be, right, it still does not erase the travesty that game was at launch.
True. I agree 100% with that.
Logic, you sound like you're concerned trolling, so I just...
Well, that's what, hey, there's plenty of games in Game Pass. Anybody who feels that, like, the Game Pass or Microsoft has a problem with their production pipeline, that's just concerned trolling.
Yeah.
No, you stop and look at it, though, to answer, just to rebuttal against Gamer Logic there, which he makes a good point, right? They should be held accountable. And in my personal opinion, they were held accountable. For the first 6 months after launch, I don't know if any company had fallen from grace as much as
PlayStation took it off the store.
Right. They were taking it off the store. It doesn't get any worse than that. It's like a library saying, we're not going to put your book in here. There's 7 billion.
That game. So but that game still sold 12 million copies after they took away all of the returns on it. Yeah. It still sold 12. So did they struggle, but did they really struggle?
Yeah, but where I wanted to get with it, all that struggling that we just went over, look at all the other games we've bought that were broken, didn't work, and they currently are broken and don't work.
Oh man, you can count them on your hand.
Yep. This game here is, these guys took it on the chin, and they legitimately went back to work.
Yeah.
They this 2.0 patch, though, Brad. We could sit here and talk about Phantom Liberty all day. That's after the fact. That's after they got kind of kicked in a bit there. So this is a situation where they came out with that 2.0. Should they be? They've already missed their window as far as being judged for Game of the Year. They can't do that now. They just, in my eyes, you can't. You can't come out in 2019. Was it 2019? I believe
2020.
2020. Oh, it was 2020. You can't come out in 2020 and then be like, "Well, we fixed it. Now judge us." So I'd say no. It's not up for any kind of Game of the Year. But you got to tip your cap and say these guys are who we thought they were, because this is the team that came out of, Witcher 3. And Witcher 3 had its problems, but Witcher 3 is a very good game. And Forte just said it. The DLC is even better. So as the game, it aged like a fine wine, right? This one here, well, it came out like an $8.99, horrible Beaujolais, okay? This is
Lambrusco.
This is a Lambrusco, a bad year Lambrusco.
Reuniti Lambrusco.
But somehow they put it back into the barrel, and they went to work on it, and this thing came out like a 1996 Perignon. So it is what it is.
It was wine in a box.
Right. It was.
I take you're not a box wine fan.
No.
I recommend that nobody ever drink the wine that has touched plastic first.
Hey, let me tell you, Mooch has given me great wine recommendations, by the way. Thank you, Mooch.
I do my best. Thank you.
And I completely agree with what Mooch said. I have a short list of studios, and I've talked about them, on the show, and publishers who I'm like, look, when you put shoulder to grindstone and you stick with a thing in the face of adversity, right? I've talked on the show numerous times about patches, right? About TLU 1, about, quite frankly, Fallout 76. And the way studios and publishers have stuck with stuff and put shoulder to grindstone and in the face of adversity, right? And how teams respond in the face of adversity, to me, counts for something. It says something about the character of that studio, right? When you look at, quite frankly, how Redfall has been treated, and you compare that to how TLU 1 has been treated, the port to PC, that says something about the character of those studios and the publishers behind them and how they care for their products. So I absolutely agree. In CD Projekt Red, with regards to how they handled Cyberpunk, are definitely in the same, same company as Ubisoft, who stuck with Rainbow Six Siege, despite the fact that people didn't really care for what they had done with the franchise when it first came out, but they stuck with it. Quite frankly, Fortnite, which did not launch to the resounding success that it is today any form or fashion.
No.
Ubisoft, who, quite frankly, I've mentioned on this show and my own show several times, right? You look back at Ubisoft and you look at things like The Crew 2, which launched to bad reviews, but then you look at where that game is on Steam and you see the community that's behind it. And you look at Ubisoft games and you look at ones that most of us have written off, like Riders Republic, and you peek back in on it and look at how Ubisoft is still delivering DLC and content for that title and how it still has a community behind it. Like, those things all count for something. And I absolutely agree that CD Projekt Red should get a standing O for how they've handled Cyberpunk. But with the specific regards, the hyper-specific regards in the narrow lane of Game of the Year, which I feel like should have a very narrowly defined, right, categorization and characterization of what's allowed into that conversation. And again, that's just me being super OCD. For me, I don't think that you get that. Just because you return to green over 2 or 3 years, I don't think you get in the Game of the Year conversation. Somebody mentioned, it's not, what do you say? It's not Game of the Day, not the Game of the Day one. I mean, no, but Jedi Survivor was out for several months, and that is a title that is, again, from Respawn Entertainment, Vince Zampella, EA. The amount of time that game was deployed and did not have what, in my mind, should have been the minimum expectations of performance and graphic fidelity, in my opinion, it falls just too far underneath what should be the forgiveness bar for being allowed in that conversation.
Yeah. I feel like that with a bunch of studios. I just feel like, for the most part,
Bungie.
Bungie. I mean, DICE with EA with Battlefield, and they got a new DLC that actually is coming out. The announcement trailer for season 6 is tomorrow, and it looks like it's going to be incredible. But I can't give them a pass for the way that game was. Like, it's not a day one award, but it's also not, I'm gonna wait until the game is fixed award either. So
well, and I think it's a difference between the business conversation and the appreciation of art. Like, to me, Game of the Year is an artistic nod, right? But I'm all for saying, hey, you stuck with the game. You've made it engaging. You've kept a robust community going. I'm going to award you from a business perspective, and I'm going to stay engaged with the game, and I'm going to shift you a little money, right, for the DLC. I'm all for that. You've bought my loyalty, right? But when it comes to doling out artistic awards, I just think of that differently.
They should just have a category called Comeback Game of the Year.
Yeah, Comeback Game or Redemption Game of the Year.
Yeah.
That would be cool,
because we see this story all the time. A lot of these games they release busted,
Halo Infinite,
and they have a great comeback story. You know what I mean? Like, look, as much as we shit on Halo Infinite for the way we release and not really having content, if you go play it today, everything that you want is there.
I heard it's pretty lit now.
Yeah, it's a much better game.
Same thing with Battlefield.
Campaign's still missing, though, B. Campaign's still.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, for the multiplayer standpoint, and how they're going to keep people engaged, and that's what that's how you get them there is with that content. So I mean, they were able to bounce back. Battlefield done the same thing. We see the same thing with Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
can't wait for Battlefield tomorrow, man.
Yeah.
I think there definitely should be a category for that because, I mean, I posed this question the other day because, everybody's up in arms about, Sony making these live service games. And it's like, well, what multiplayer game are you playing that isn't a live service game? Because every one of them is a live service game. Like nobody could give me a game besides Elden Ring PvP that wasn't a live service game.
Mm-hmm.
Every single multiplayer game that we play today is a live service game. Every game has seasons.
Yeah.
Every game has been going on for years and years and years. There's no multiplayer game that just releases and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I know is that the Halo Infinite MAU is a positive number, but the factions MAU is 0.
Oh.
Oh man. You being weird.
Well,
hey man.
Yeah. On that note, look, we have like 147 people watching.
Shout out to y'all for
only
watching.
40 likes, though. Please smash that like button if you haven't done so already. And if you're new, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Gentlemen, that's it for topics tonight. Mooch, I promised you I wouldn't keep you here late, man.
Hey, man, that's all right.
So look,
man, what you talking about? You should have kept that man for 2 more hours.
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, for 12:30. Well, actually, the last BRAP I was on, which was not long ago, I think it was a month and a half ago. I was that was 3.5. Forte and slow mo 3.5 on DPS about a month ago.
Yeah,
3 weeks ago. I said, BRAP, I gotta get up in the morning. I gotta go to work. He's like, listen, dude, 10:15. I'm like, dude, by all means, if you have another topic, we can go another topic.
No. Actually, no. I wanted to have enough topics to get through them, and so that we could get you through the whole show without you having to leave early.
I appreciate that.
So mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished is right.
Yeah.
This is great.
Plus we had a show yesterday too.
That's true. We did do a lot of topics yesterday.
Yeah, we went through a lot of topics. Forte. It was.
Well, that's another question. Did any of you guys see the interview from yesterday?
I caught the first 30 minutes, and then I have not caught the last 30. So,
Anybody that listened to it, I guess that's something we could just talk about real quick. What were your thoughts on? It's like just a little bit that you heard from what he had to say, Mooch.
Well, I mean, I listen to Secret Symbols all the time. So, like,
I do too.
A lot of BRAP's questions. Like, I had heard a lot of what Colin his answers were. I really like how he doesn't just do a podcast. One thing about Colin that I've noticed over the years, he doesn't just do a podcast, off the cuff. He does his research. He formulates his opinion, and then he speaks to it. And he generally has a lot of backup if you want to go back and forth with him. And it's always in a very professional way. It's just I thought it was a very good point. I was trying to think of the one topic that you guys were having yesterday. Oh, geez, was it more? But I think it was just, I don't know if it was about teams being acquired. I can't remember how you kind of phrased it, Brad. But it really, he kind of got into the whole, like, this is, did you ask him a question, something along the lines of, like, acquisitions and teams or something like that? It was about, that was like 20 minutes in.
Yeah, well, we were talking about, with acquisitions, we were talking about Microsoft, Phil Spencer, under oath, the FTC, the leak that came out where that it was the what is it, Logic? What group was it that put out the that deck?
The Hardware and Devices Group.
Hardware and Devices Group. Their assessment of the Xbox Live, or not Xbox Live, Game Pass, the Game Pass business model. They were saying that it needs to be at about 100 million subscribers by 2030 to be.
I think it was 2030. Yes,
to be sustainable, and we haven't heard anything official regarding Xbox subscriptions for 2 years. And Colin mentioned that. And
so the one thing with that too, Rap, when you talk about that, Microsoft's always they don't talk about sales anymore, but they definitely talk about, how many people stop by to press the A button. So, right, they talk about that.
Were shot. How many times somebody jumped on the box? Like they talk about all these obscure numbers that don't mean nothing.
Right. So when it
what was interesting, I'm sorry not to cut you off. What was interesting is when you talked about that, I listened to that. He brought up the fact that, you have, say, 5 million players on day one, but if you look at the completion rate of those games, no one's actually playing those games. Like, for instance, Starfield, I think less than 5% of the people even got off the first planet. So what do those numbers actually mean?
Right.
That was interesting. Yeah, and he brought up a great point about. Yeah, it was a great point. He talked about Hi-Fi Rush, and then he compared the completion numbers for Final Fantasy 16 or the 40%.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush 7% of the entire Xbox ecosystem finished Hi-Fi Rush, and greater than 40-something% on PlayStation finished Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
16.
16. Yeah, that was pretty telling. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mooch. Yeah, you were. I hope that answered your question about.
It did, but it was actually because I just went and looked. It was because I had it saved. I literally have it saved where I left off. You were actually talking to him more about it was the Jim Ryan thing, and he was getting into And he said, listen, he goes, he's mentioned it a number of times. Remember, I think Colin used the example on your show yesterday. He said he's going from Japan to the United States to London to the United States to Japan to London, and he did that for 5 years. He says that's exhausting. I mean, and it was like it's just good to see that somebody's actually, he followed through. He read all the articles. He read that Jim Ryan has said this in previous quotes.
He mentioned that Jim Ryan had talked about that previously.
So, I mean, that's really, that's one of the things that I really enjoy about Colin is generally he gives you the topic on sacred symbols. He then asks, he says, here's the topic. This is where this originated from. Sometimes he'll throw his 2 cents in first. He'll usually go to Chris or Dustin first, those two guys. And then he goes, okay, now it's my turn to chime in. So, great show you guys had yesterday. I'll probably watch the rest of it. Like I said, whenever I have my long drives I've got to do for work, things like that, I'll always that's my podcast time. Yeah. So sometimes it's on Saturday morning, sometimes it's on Friday morning, sometimes it's Thursday afternoons. But no, the fact that you got him on here, we've had Dustin on, you've had Dustin on, I've had Dustin on Crossfire, you've had him on BRAP twice, I think. And was it once? I apologize. Yeah, but Dustin's another great. Like these guys speak from the heart. They tell you how they feel. And there's really not a whole lot of BS in there. So the great show, from Colin and as well as you guys putting on an outstanding show, Brad. Really well done.
Yeah, no, it was very, very, very insightful. I mean, it was nice getting having a grounded conversation in the economics. Or the economic dynamics of the gaming industry. We talked about how expensive AAA games are, like that, and this narrative. I asked Colin, I said, are you concerned about this narrative of people wanting to have access to AAA games cheap because they're not cheap to make.
No,
and he said, look, he's concerned about kind of the. Correct me if I'm wrong, Forte. I believe he said the kind of the race to the bottom.
Yeah,
gaming and the commoditization of gaming.
Yep.
Logic, by the way, I thought I was having right. Some of the conversations we've had, we talked about the commoditization of gaming.
Yep.
And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the show, but there's part of that conversation is probably going to sound very familiar to you, and it was just very insightful, and it was nice to have that kind of well thought out, nuanced conversation about the industry. And that's why I wanted to have him on. I mean, it was just a great conversation, great show. So I would encourage everyone who hasn't checked it out to check out yesterday's BRAP with Colin. So,
No, it's interesting too, not to go full circle, BRAP, right back to the beginning, but considering what you just said, the logic and the quote that you just read, that Colin was saying, "Race to the bottom." It's interesting. You look at the games and they're not bad scores by no means. I think anything in the 80s is a very good score. So let's just put that out there, right? First and foremost. But like you look at some of the games that have come out from Xbox, and I know that Halo Infinite got a 87. And it's like, then you see 84 or 85 right now is where Forza's sitting, which I believe that dropped from Forza 7. You're seeing how Redfall did. You're seeing how like Microsoft, regardless of the state with Halo Infinite, like the campaign was half empty. The multiplayer was polished, but very, very lacking content. They just put things out there, and just to go full rotation back to the beginning, if Xbox, just make you guys think before we leave, maybe make it a rhetorical question, unless you guys want to chime in. If a game like Factions 2 was coming out on Xbox, and Xbox saw it, they had, even if they had a Bungie, they would be like, just put it out there. They would have just thrown it out there. Just throw it out there, and we'll fix it as it goes. And it's like sometimes they do with games like Sea of Thieves. But people are you still see people on Twitter today going, "Hey, where's my 60 frame patch for Redfall?" That was May. That came out in May. So it's you got to wonder when you say like race to the bottom. That's an interesting quote. So I think that's the one thing that concerns me when everybody says, "Well, I'm getting my games for basically nothing in Game Pass." Well, are you getting the quality that you were used to? If you feel you are, that's good for you. I think it's a mixed bag, honestly. I think it's a mixed bag. I think some of the games that are coming,
with you, Mooch.
Some of the games that are coming out, we've had conversations about this behind the scenes, and I've spoken to Worry too. Some of them are okay. Some of them, they just feel like they were where they were. They're done. Get it out the door. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. So, we'll see. Time will tell. Hopefully, that's why I like to see, like what B Money said earlier. When Yoshida said this game isn't right with God of War. Get back to the drawing board. Go do something else. I'm not putting that out. And you see, whether it be PlayStation or Bungie, as a two-headed dragon said that which it probably took both of them to talk to the great.
If you
gotta go back to work, yeah.
If you, I mean, I follow Nintendo probably a lot more than I guess maybe I don't know, but maybe more than people on the panel. But that comment race to the bottom. Iwata is famous for saying that back in the day when they were talking about photorealism and how graphics were the most important thing, and where are the games that look real? And his comment was, once you get to that point, where do you go? There's no creativity. It's just go outside. That's the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There has to be something more creative. And when it comes to oh god, I actually completely forgot what I was going to say. When it comes to the idea of Game Pass and, what is AAA, you see people now actually changing their idea of what AAA is because of the subscription service. And, I get it that like almost everything now is subjective to people and there's no objective truth anymore, but there are some objective truths when it comes to what is a quality video game in terms of its presentation, the writing, the motion capture. And I feel like personally to me, once I saw, I like Starfield, I really enjoy it. I really do. But, it's not polished. It's just not.
Yeah.
And Redfall, not polished at all. And with the Forza review, I'm reading it. I think Digital Foundry 11 hours ago, they dropped their video and they're saying it feels more arcade than it does sim, which I guess is okay for people who want to play that. But there are some things that just aren't there and they're going to quote unquote come later. So there's this warping of what, quality is around subscription services. And even with PlayStation, because they have a subscription service too. But I like the idea of, we're making something that costs a lot of money and we're going to charge you for that quality because you pay for what you get.
Yep.
And I think that's important to remember. You pay for what you get.
Yeah, it's one of
You're
the
not going
things.
to pay $15 forever for a subscription service and get $300 million budget games that are industry defining. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
And it's fine if you don't like those games or you like the games in Game Pass. It's fine if you feel like you're getting a great value, but I just don't want that degradation to happen just because somebody's in love with one corporation versus the other.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Worry. And
agreed.
Things Colin mentioned yesterday is you get what you pay for. I mean, he said that, and I think. I agree. I think Forte agreed with him too, and he said that. So, and I do believe that you do get what you pay for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you remember the Capcom, was it the CFO of Capcom at Tokyo Game Show? Forte he said that for AAA games, even $70 isn't the cost has exceeded the $70 price point for AAA games. Is that Am I getting that right, Forte? Is that? I think we talked about it yesterday.
No, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
The other thing that a lot of people don't talk about, we bring it up on Crossfire, BRAP, is that we just saw Netflix. Netflix just went up like a year ago. Netflix is going up again. We saw Amazon Prime is going up. This is all in the past 2 weeks. But that tweet that's coming out for all these subscription services is happening more and more and more and more. And Phil was recently interviewed, and he said, "Well, yeah, there's no way we don't see that." And I'm paraphrasing. That Game Pass won't go up again. They haven't even gotten, the check hasn't been exchanged yet for the 80 billion, or 70 billion, pardon me. So it's going to go up. A lot of people keep saying, well, I'm okay paying $15 a month. That's fine. But all I keep reminding people, and no one says this, there's no articles that say, I would love to see just a news article from a gaming outlet be like, are you Game Pass is great for $15. How do you feel at $19.99? How do you feel when it's $24.99? What if they start putting games into you guys saw how they have the different divisions now, right? There's console, there's PC, there's Ultimate, there's another one. So what happens now that they've made their tiers? What if and this was a rumor, I'm not saying it's true. They were saying that maybe the new Call of Duty games will go into the Ultimate only, and then after 6 months or 12 months, then they'll go into the console, go into the other. And I mean, I'm just bringing up different ideas, BRAP, these are things that people say. Not only are you talking about the possibility of degradation of gaming, like Worry was saying, but I worry also about, like, we think that you're going to get all these games just for $9.99 or $10.99 or $14.99, and they're already at $16.99 and $10.99 respectively. So you could very easily see the $10.99 making its way to $13.99 in a few years, and the $16.99 going to $19.99. And if you think that's the end of the road, you're wrong. Just look at the trends that are going through all subscription services. Game Pass is eventually going to hit 20. Ultimate, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but maybe it'll happen for the Xbox. The next Xbox generation might be $24.99. And how far up do you go before you say, I don't really want? I'm not playing the other 200 games. I'm playing a couple of the games a year, but I'm not playing enough to justify that. It's just, that's a question for the audience to answer. I posed the question. It's rhetorical to the audience, but that's something that we bring up a lot on Crossfire, because I don't hear a lot of people say, how do you feel when this goes up? We say things like, oh my God, Amazon Prime went up. But like Amazon Prime, TV is bundled in with your 2-day delivery, which everybody has, right? So they've kind of got a hook in there. I always say that TV and Amazon and those types of things, that's media consumed differently. You put Netflix on, you could have Netflix on all day and not watch one thing on it. You playing a game constitutes you sitting down and picking up a controller and playing a game. It takes time, it takes concentration. It's not like I just put on Seinfeld, or I put on whatever and I just watched it. Okay, well that's great, but that's not the same media consumption the way video games are played. So we just talked about that in the beginning of your show tonight. There's not enough sand in the hourglass. There's not enough time to play all these games. We just said we have a backlog of games just from this year. From this year, there's a backlog of games. So when people go, well, you have 200 games in Game Pass, I got to beat the games I just bought this year, let alone the games I didn't beat from last year. Where am I playing? Where do I have time to play Tunic in Game Pass? And that's why I think you heard, like Phil say, on the console side of things, to a certain extent, it's plateaued.
Yeah,
so
the growth is going to be outside console.
This will be a debate for years to come, but it's an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah. By the way, Tim Dillon in the chat, we don't only talk about Game Pass on the show. Maybe you missed the other topics that we talked about this evening.
We're not allowed to bring up Game. Everyone else can bring up Game Pass. Nobody. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Hey, remember when I said that Jim Ryan should have just let them have Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Because the math wouldn't math. You can't make a $300 million game every year and put it in Game Pass.
Yep.
They need a PlayStation because they have to eat off of PlayStation. Because putting that game in the Game Pass every year is not going to work for them. We saw in the leaked document how much did they make off of Game Pass. We saw how much they were going to spend on some of these games.
Mm-hmm. We saw how much it would take to get those games.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know
it's almost half their budget.
Yeah, it takes multiple teams to put Call of Duty together every year. They can't disband those teams because they need the game. They need to recoup the revenue from putting the game in the Game Pass. Like, we don't know how the math is going to break down. There's a bunch of people on Xbox who buy the game every year. Now, what if they stop buying the game and they only get it on Game Pass?
And a lot of people are doing that.
Yep.
Right.
And that's how you know you're not going to get $300 million first party projects dropping into Game Pass.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think one of the things that, if I remember correctly, yesterday that really kind of raised my ears is when I think Colin had said something to the effect of that Microsoft is trying to stop people from, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially they're trying to stop people from actually paying money to buy games. To individually spend, like, that's like, think about that for a second.
Well, they want to make a subscription service more attractive than a one-off AAA title.
Yeah.
Coming out. Like, for instance, Spider-Man2 is getting a big fat release. You're getting marketing. It's everywhere. It's going to release. They don't want that mentality to be the mentality. They want $15 a month, $20 a month, a bunch of games that you try for 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe you find one that you play for a few hours, and then that's it. Because it behooves them to do that when it comes to a service. Because they can't spend that kind of money to make a Spider-Man 2. They could. They've got more money than anybody. They just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I do want to wrap up the show. I want to thank everyone in the live chat. Oh, before I wrap the show, though, let me get. I did have a super chat I need to get to. Black Metal Gamer with the $2 super chat says, "Should there be a comeback game of the year as a new category?" I vote yes for that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Comeback game of the year, right? Not comeback DLC of the year.
I think DLC should be thrown in there too.
All right.
But anyhow, but no, big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. We have about 164 people watching. Please smash that like button if you haven't done so already. If you're new, hit the bell notification or subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. So you guys acting like you take Colin's opinions like it's Bible. Oh my God.
I know. Here we go.
Tim, you just gotta go outside, breathe, get some fresh air, man.
The meatloaf is ready, Timmy. Come upstairs for dinner.
Yeah.
No, he just needs to not watch the show. He's obviously a child. I've been saying for going on 2 years now, this is not a show for children.
It is not a show for children.
That content's other places on YouTube. You're welcome to go consume it.
Yes, I thank you, Logic. Yeah, there's other shows that yes, will massage your feet and provide you lots of confirmation bias. That's not the show.
Where are those shows that massage your feet? I can use some of that.
Maybe Crossfire on Friday nights, Booch. I don't know.
Oh,
maybe
wow.
not. Maybe not.
No, Mooch is massaging something else.
Oh boy. Okay. On that note,
what a way to end the show, baby.
Yeah, oh man.
I knew he had to always get a jab.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You never know where that's gonna land.
Hey, remember that time we played The Division with Phil Spencer? Do you remember that?
I do. That actually happened.
Yeah, that actually happened.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I remember getting into that chat room with you, and I forget who else was there. And
yeah, he asked if he can borrow $15 from me.
Phil Spencer. Oh my God! All right.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right.
No, that actually did happen though. For people who are listening.
No, we actually, yeah,
we did play The Division. Yeah.
That's a true story. It was me, Worry, and a couple other people were in a party room with Phil Spencer playing The Division. So when The Division was in beta, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, "Hey, Phil, nice to meet you." Anyhow, want to give a big shout out to also our guests this evening, Mooch and Worry. Worry, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know where they can find you. And thank you for coming on.
X. You can find me on X, Worry Word Gamer, and you can find me on oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. What's the
YouTube?
Oh my God, YouTube.
YouTube.
Yes, YouTube, Worry Word Gamer.
All right, awesome. Worry, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. And then a lot of people don't know, Worry and I have been podcasting together for a very long time. Off and on, right? Like 2014 maybe?
Yeah, I think it was that 2014. Yeah, the first time.
Yeah. And wow, yeah, it's wow, that time flies. And it me be money since 2015. Jeez, man, time flies. Anyhow, and then Mooch, look, man,
Yes, sir.
I didn't mean to keep you to 11 o'clock.
No, it's my fault.
It happens.
It's my fault. I completely went into another complete category because I brought up. But no, Brad, thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate you looking out for the clock for me. I will let everybody know we are going to do a great Crossfire this Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Come over there. It's Mooch TV. Drops the O's for zeros. And yeah, go over and check it out, guys. Subscribe. And we'll see you Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. And we have Game Logic, a.k.a. the Oracle. Oracle, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know they can find you.
Yeah, you can catch up with me lots of places. Most recently, you can catch up with me over on the Rounding Off Infinity blog, where I posted an article tonight about my own opinions on game lengths. and people who tightly couple the length of a game to the notion of the game's quality. So you're welcome to go check that out. And then, of course, you can check me out on Enough to Keep Going, a weekly games podcast. And every once in a while, I actually guest star on DPS.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that might be a hint there, Forte. And then we got B Money 101. B, I think everyone can find you at B Money 101. Is that?
That is correct. That is correct. You can find me there. That's probably the only place you can find me now because I haven't been playing too many games. But Battlefield's update, like Forte mentioned earlier, they are dropping the new content update trailer tomorrow. So season 6 will be rolling out pretty soon. So I'll be back on Battlefield heavy.
Yes, sir.
Once that rolls out. So you'll be able to find me there as well. But it was great to podcast with you guys. I haven't been here in quite a while. I've been really busy with real life stuff, like I mentioned before. 3 weeks left in the football season, and then 2 weeks off, and then we're gearing up for wrestling season. So, it's just been a crazy whirlwind of things going on in my life, and hopefully, I'll start to be on here more consistent. But if not, that's what I'm doing.
No, B, it was great having you on, and happy to hear about the success your kids are having in football. That's awesome, man.
Yes.
That is
appreciate
awesome.
that, man.
Yeah, no, that's great. And last but not least, the better half of DPS Gaming Forte. I'm going to say that because Slow-Mo's not here.
Great show as always. Really appreciate the conversation. It's Gaming Forte on Twitter, well, formerly known as Twitter, now X. Make sure you come check us out on DPS Podcast. That's every Thursday at 9 p.m. with the homie Slow-Mo. It's going to be a great time tomorrow. Come check us out over there. And you guys have a great week and enjoy the games you're playing.
Is DPS on your show or your?
Yeah, it's on Slow-Mo's next week or this week, I should say.
Okay. Yeah, big shout out to Slow-Mo Backslap. Slow-Mo, we miss you. Wish you were here. But no, definitely check out DPS tomorrow night, and should be another great show there. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us again this evening. Please again hit that like button if you're new. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you are alerted when we go live, and we will catch you next week. May do a BRAP rant this Wednesday, or not this Wednesday. I'm sorry, this weekend. But also depends on sports because I'll be playing. My kids are in sports too. But everyone, hey, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy playing video games. Remember, that's what it's all about: having fun, being entertained, and relaxing and enjoying video games. So we'll catch you next time. Thank you.